Now, in the last lesson, we created our remove button with our X icon wingding. Now we actually need to create the functionality in our Redux code in order to clear this item out. Now, this is actually going to be very similar to what we did from a Redux standpoint as far as when we added items. And you can imagine it must be similar because what we're doing is we're trying to update our cart items reducer value inside of our cart reducer so that we clear out an item regardless of its quantity whenever we hit this X button. So of course we now know that we need to dispatch a new action that will clear out that item based on an item that we pass in as the payload for this new action that we're trying to write. So let's actually do this. Now, we already know what we need to do from a Redux standpoint. We need to first make the new action type. So inside of our cart types, let's make a new one called clear item from cart, which is equal to the string value of clear item from cart. Now, what we want to do with the actual action is we want to make a new action that dispatches the new clear item from cart that we just made. So we will call it clear item from cart as well, which gets an item. So it's a function that gets an item as a property, just like our add item. And in an exactly similar way as our add item action creator, we're going to set the type equal to our new clear item from cart and set the payload equal to the item that we're trying to clear. Now that we have this, we need to actually update our reducer so that our reducer removes the appropriate item from the array. So inside of our cart reducer, we're going to make a new case that will listen to our new action. So this will be our cart action types.clear item from cart. And what it will return is going to be a new object where we spread everything in our state. But we also want to update our cart items so that now it will return a new array without any instance of that item that we're trying to clear away. Now, the code that we need to write here in our reducer is going to be a filter. If you remember from filter, we're just going to call on our existing cart items array that exists on our state right now. And we're going to filter it, passing in the appropriate cart item. And then what we'll say is that if the cart item ID does not match the action payload, which we know is the item we're trying to remove, .id, then I want you to keep it. If that cart item ID does match the item's ID that we're trying to remove from our payload, then I want you to filter it out. Now, as you remember, filter returns us back anything that yields true inside of the actual function as the return of the function. Here, what it's saying is that if the cart item's ID does not match the item we're trying to filter, then return true. So we'll keep that item, right? Because we want to keep any item where the ID is not the one that we're trying to clear out. So that's what filter does, and it gives us back a new array. With this, we've made our clear item from cart. We just need to now bind it to our checkout item component. So what we're going to do is inside of our checkout item component, we are going to now import in connect because we need to bind our actual new action to our component, very similar to how we did it with add item. So we'll just import that in as clear item from cart from our Redux folder, cart actions. Then we need to make our map dispatch to props, which is equal to this function that gets dispatch from the Redux store. And then we will return our new clear item. And with this clear item function, we are going to set it to pretty much what we had earlier with our add item. The only difference is that now we're using our new clear item from cart function. So we'll make sure to dispatch clear item from cart, passing in our item. As you see, this shape is very similar to the code that we wrote inside of our collection item when we map dispatched our add item function. And then we just have to make sure to connect, passing in null and our map dispatch to props, wrapping our checkout item. So now we need the cart item. So instead of destructuring these values off here, remember, by doing this and destructuring these values this way, one layer deep, so we're pulling cart item off the props object and then pulling these values off of the cart item, we actually don't have access to the cart item property. So what we need to do is we need to again do an explicit return in this function and just make sure to set the const of these values inside of the squiggly lines of our function definition. And now we'll have access to our cart item as well as our new clear item function that we're passing in. So now on our remove button, we can do our on click where we create a new anonymous function that will call our new clear item function that we're passing in as a prop, and we'll pass the cart item in like so. And now we have our clear item working. So this is very similar to our add item functionality that we wrote a couple lessons ago. Except now the main difference is that our reducer changes its functionality. Instead of doing our add item to cart, we're doing this new filter, which returns us a new array with the appropriate item filtered out. Now if we go back to our application, we go back to our shop, we add some items, and let's say I wanted to get rid of brown cowboy. If I hit the X, we see that it got removed. We see our clear item from cart action being fired. And of course, we see our cart items array reflecting the new changes. And just like that, we've now built in our clear item from cart feature. That was actually pretty simple. It's pretty much just the same pattern that we were used to from writing our add item feature. And you'll see that much of Redux is pretty much just this pattern that we've written twice now. We mainly want to do something with our reducer, passing in some specific object as a payload. Maybe not even an object, maybe it's some property. And what we do is we just want to update our reducer, so we want to update our state values accordingly depending on what we're getting. We'll actually see this in a bit more detail once we add in our arrows and we reuse our add item, as well as make a new remove item feature inside of our checkout item. We'll do that in the next lesson.